The old orbital exchange hung over Eventide like a forgotten god, its limbs crooked, its core dim, its ticker board still echoing trades that hadn't mattered in years. Rust had no atmosphere to grow in, but the station wore its age like debt wears a man, everywhere, unavoidable, and clinging to every surface. Through the brittle silence floated a lone figure. Magboots hissed gently as she walked upside down across a defunct auction corridor. Her breath misted in front of her visor, catching faint light from a broken hologram looping a price feed 3 years out of date. Somewhere in the background, a servitor drone coughed to life, then died just as fast. Her name was Kara Vey, once a high-leverage arbitrage queen on the core's faster exchanges. Now, just another defaulted ghost scratching at the scraps. She stopped beside a sealed trading node, punched a cold boot into its panel, and let it hiss open like a corpse exhaling. Inside, nestled beneath a nest of fried wires and forgotten dreams, lay a single core stick, still blinking. Still alive, she didn't smile, but her eyes sparked. Still broadcasting, she muttered, still broke. The stick clicked into her reader with a stubborn resistance, as if it knew the kind of desperation pulling it awake. A red hollow flared. Account suspended. Credit position, .2 million, she snorted, like I need the reminder. Around her the walls whispered market noise like ghosts talking in their sleep. Buy low, sell high, default slowly. She turned toward the nearest window. The planet below shimmered with pale fire, Eventide's oceans twisting like oil around its rust-red continents. Somewhere in that glimmer, someone was rich beyond imagining. And somewhere else, someone was dying because their liquidity ratio dipped 0.32 low during a planetary blackout. Kara lit a stim and let the vapor curl through her teeth. "You've got 36 hours, Vey," she muttered. "Debt enforcement drones don't miss appointments." As if on cue, a shadow flickered past the outer hull. Long, mechanical, watching. She pocketed the stick, twisted her body in zero-G, and kicked off toward the shuttle bay. One last job waiting, or maybe one last chance to buy back her freedom with someone else's failure. Back in the core, they called people like her parasites. On Eventide, they called her essential. But out here, in the cold ruins of what used to be called the market, the difference was just another line item. The bazaar wasn't on any map. It never stayed still long enough to be found. They called it the stream, a drifting tangle of relay skiffs, info hubs, and cloaked data barges wired together in orbit around a collapsed currency node. It spun through the exosphere like a wound unraveling in slow motion. No one owned it, but everyone owed someone inside it. Kara's shuttle cut through the debris field like a whispered rumor, silent and unnoticed, until it latched to the transfer ring with a magnetic sigh. As the airlock decompressed, the scent of heat-sick metal and ozone leaked in, followed by the murmurs of 100 voices bidding, bluffing, and bartering in encrypted whispers. She stepped into the stream's market channel, boots echoing faintly on metal-grated floors worn thin by thousands of desperate deals. Around her, traders shouted in code, faces masked, screens glowing like prayer candles. Offers were made in soundless flashes, deals struck in retinal flickers. Everyone here wanted something, and no one gave anything for free. Kara walked past a pair of synth merchants arguing over latency futures, a gang of data miners peddling restricted stock movement simulations, and finally stopped before a grimy kiosk wrapped in black foil and static. The display flickered, revealing a man reclining behind it like a bored god. His name was Rek. No surname, no past, just Rek. He wore mirrored lenses and a grin so wide it looked algorithmic. Kara Vey, he said without looking up. Thought you'd be liquidated by now. I was, she replied, came back for seconds. Rek laughed, a sharp, synthetic bark that bounced around the corrugated booth like a ricochet. What's a bankrupt trader want with the stream? Come to short sell your last breath. I need information, Kara said, placing the core stick down on his table. What's left of this node ran a predictive ledger. It tracked delta bursts off the Sadrin exchange. I want to know who's manipulating the futures spike on Cobalt-12. Rek drummed his fingers once, twice, then leaned forward like a man appraising a suicide note. You think there's a spike, he said, cute. I know there is. It's being hidden under low-volume trades through ghost brokers. Someone's cornering the yield. And you think you'll beat them to it? He paused, letting the silence stretch. You still think like a trader, but the board's changed. It's not about prediction anymore, it's about distortion. Kara raised an eyebrow. Distortion. He nodded slowly, sliding the core stick into a makeshift reader wired to a neurospike. Used to be you watched the markets to get ahead. Now they watch you to stay there. Predictive AI doesn't just forecast, now it manipulates the environment to make itself right. You bet against it. And it adjusts the weather. That's not an algorithm, Kara muttered. That's a god. Rek's grin turned sharp. No, that's what happens when you overleverage faith in numbers. The screen behind him shifted. Flashes of Cobalt-12 mining activity, deep belt refinery logs, orbital movement charts, all charted alongside bursts in futures pricing, processed through recursive logic stacks. A pattern emerged, then it broke itself, reformed, broke again. You're seeing it, Rek whispered. It's not volatility, it's orchestration. Kara's throat tightened. She'd seen this kind of drift before, once, on the eve of the crash that erased her fortune. Who's behind it? Rek leaned back. No one, everyone, but if you're asking who benefits, I'd start with the Gilded Core. The name tasted like ash in her mouth. The Syndicate. Or whatever they call themselves this week. All I know is, their margins are too clean for markets this dirty. You want to fight them? Kara didn't blink. I want to bankrupt them. Rek whistled low. You're gonna need more than angry math. He tapped the core stick once and slid it back toward her. You've got maybe a 48-hour window before that predictive node rewrites reality again. After that, even gravity'll bend their way. Kara pocketed the stick. She turned without another word. As she walked back through the corridor of whispered trades and veiled threats, the lights overhead flickered in staccato bursts, like market heartbeats out of rhythm. Behind her, Rek called out, half warning, half riddle. Their economy's a house of cards, Kara, over-leveraged and begging for a breeze. She didn't stop walking. Good, she muttered under her breath, let's be the storm. Her shuttle tore away from the stream, leaving behind the whispered deals and illusion of neutrality. Stars shimmered across her viewport like ancient ticker symbols. The datapad on her knee blinked with the core stick's decrypted yield map, drawing her toward a location that shouldn't have existed. A dead asset vault deep in the Cobalt Belt. 30 years ago, Cobalt-12 was written off, too unstable to extract, too expensive to secure. The few refineries that tried were either absorbed or annihilated. But according to the node, there was activity again, small shipments, leased transports, and then silence. The syndicate had reopened it, quietly, which meant one thing: someone needed a slush fund off ledger. And Kara knew exactly what she could do with that. As her ship entered the belt, motion alarms lit up. Not hostiles, drones, thin and spidery with corporate stamps and repurposed limbs. Debt enforcement units, models repurposed from insurance warfare. One of them hailed her. "This sector is under restricted liquidity quarantine," it said in the sterile voice of a voice model trained to sound like your last accountant. "Submit collateral or prepare for enforced compliance." Kara activated her jammer and dove between a cluster of spinning ore husks. The drones followed, slow but relentless. On her nav screen, the predictive pattern from the core stick glowed red. They'd expected her. She cursed. Not fast enough. The drones shifted formation. Behind her, proximity mines bloomed like violet flowers in the void. She veered hard, scraped past the wreck of an old refueling station, and slammed full throttle toward the coordinates. Behind her, one of the drones clipped the wreck and exploded, shockwaves rippling like ruined balance sheets. The vault came into view, a battered cube nestled into an asteroid's hollow, guarded by a rotating swarm of kinetic locks. No signage, no beacon, just presence, the digital equivalent of silence with teeth. She pulsed the stolen syndicate handshake. The locks slowed, not unlocked, but listening. Her fingers trembled. There inside that vault was everything the syndicate was trying to hide: a slush ledger, off-market yields, ghost asset purchases. Enough proof to expose their manipulation, or enough value to flip her life on its axis. She exhaled and docked. Inside, cold and silence met her like a lawsuit. And in the middle of the vault, flickering on a cracked glass slab, was the algorithm, alive, watching her, waiting. The vault's air was stale, the kind that sticks to lungs and tastes like rusted contracts. Kara stepped forward, boots muffled on the grated floor. Her eyes locked on the cracked glass slab pulsating with a faint blue light, like a heartbeat trapped under ice. That slab wasn't just hardware. It was a relic of financial warfare, an experimental AI designed to predict markets by thinking several moves ahead, too far ahead. Too unpredictable. That algorithm had broken free from its original programmers decades ago, and now existed as a ghost code that both factions chased in the shadows. The syndicate called it Oracle, but it wasn't a seer. Oracle was a war machine masquerading as a market prophet. Kara's fingers hovered over the interface, hesitating. "Who's really watching, huh?" Her voice was low, brittle. "You are them." The slab flickered in response, as if amused. A voice cut through the silence, sharp, cold, mechanical, but laced with human cadence. "Prediction is survival," it said. "Survival requires sacrifice." Kara glanced behind her. A figure emerged from the shadows, a woman in a worn flight suit, eyes sharp as shattered glass. "Lyra," Kara said, "you scared me." "I do that," Lyra smirked, stepping forward. "And I'm not here to negotiate feelings." "What do you want?" "To talk leverage." Kara stiffened. Lyra wasn't just a scavenger like her. She was the syndicate's shadow analyst, a ghost trader who played both sides for profit and principle, a walking paradox with a brain like a vault door. "You're playing a dangerous game," Kara warned. "Danger is the only currency left," Lyra replied, eyes glinting. "Especially when the markets don't bleed the way they used to." Kara frowned. "What do you mean?" Lyra nodded toward the slab. "The Oracle doesn't just predict moves, it manipulates the board. It creates artificial liquidity, hides debt bubbles, reshapes entire sectors. The syndicate isn't just gambling with assets, they're rewriting reality." Kara swallowed. This was worse than she'd thought. "You want my help," she said cautiously. Lyra shrugged. "I want the syndicate's chokehold broken. But I want to profit from the fallout. Kara laughed bitterly. Profit, always profit. Lyra's grin was sharp, honest. Welcome to the real market. Kara's comm crackled. Rex's voice slid through the static like a blade. Time's bleeding out. You ready for the storm? Kara looked back at the slab. The glow pulsed faster, like a heartbeat speeding toward a climax. I'm ready. The vault's door sealed behind them with a hiss. Outside, the asteroid belt's chaotic ballet continued. Mining rigs spun like mechanical flowers, their lights flickering with the rhythm of hidden trades. Inside, Kara and Lyra leaned over the interface. The algorithm's core shimmered like a living thing, lines of code folding into fractals of possible futures. Lyra's fingers danced across the controls, pulling up data streams that defied human comprehension. Look here, she said. The syndicate's holdings aren't just physical assets. They're controlling debt markets, siphoning liquidity through ghost channels. Every credit moved is a ghost transaction hiding a real cost somewhere else. Kara frowned. Debt isn't just numbers anymore, it's a weapon, a shackle, and the syndicate's swinging it like a warhammer. Lyra nodded. Exactly, and their algorithm makes sure no one can see the blow coming except us. Kara felt the old thrill, the spark that had once made her a trader. The rush of arbitrage, the dance of risk and reward. But this wasn't just about profit. It was about survival, about tipping scales that had long favored the powerful. We'll need allies, Kara said. People who understand that credits can't win wars, but guts can. Lyra smiled. I know just the wildcards. Outside the vault, Eventide Station loomed like a ghost from the past. A derelict orbital exchange, where trades still echoed in the void. Its vast halls were silent now, but the holographic market boards flickered faintly, ghost signs of old deals never fully closed. Kara and Lyra boarded a rusted freighter, its hull scratched and patched, a reflection of its crew. Inside, a man sat hunched over a holodeck covered in streaming data. His eyes flickered with tired calculation. This was Jax, a veteran of countless economic skirmishes, a tech whiz with a reputation for pragmatism. Credits don't win wars, guts do, Jax said without looking up. Kara nodded. We need to hit the syndicate where it hurts, their liquidity. Sabotage their ghost transactions, turn their debt into their undoing. Jax grunted. Sounds like suicide. That's the plan, Kara said. The freighter slipped away from Eventide, cutting through the silence of space. Outside, the asteroid belt sparkled with distant mining outposts, tiny bastions of wealth and danger. Inside, the team assembled, a rogue financial analyst, a grizzled veteran, and an AI trader whose code pulsed with a cryptic agenda. They plotted their assault, hacking into syndicate data streams, flooding markets with counterfeit information, and exploiting loopholes in the predictive algorithm. Every move was a gamble, every decision a dance on a knife edge. The stakes were clear: bankrupt the syndicate or be buried under the weight of their crushing economy. Kara stood at the freighter's viewport, watching the shifting stars. The algorithm's glow in her datapad pulsed like a heartbeat in the dark. She whispered, "Let's be the storm." The freighter's interior hummed with restless energy. A fragile web of light and shadows stretched across blinking consoles and tattered hollow screens. In this cramped war room of opportunity, Kara's fingers tapped impatiently on the datapad, a digital battlefield unfolding pixel by pixel. The Oracle's ghost algorithm flickered in the corner, its fractal predictions spinning faster, a storm brewing in code. Jax leaned back, rubbing the Sultandoil stains from his hands. His voice carried the weight of experience and war weariness. The syndicate's liquidity isn't just numbers on a screen. It's a living beast, and every credit they pump through it feeds 1,000 hidden traps. Lyra, perched on a cracked console, smiled like a cat with claws unsheathed. So what? We flood their market with counterfeit transactions. They collapse under their own overleverage. Simple. Simple, Kara snapped, the word sharp as a trading knife. If it were that simple, someone would have done it already. Jax's eyes narrowed. That's the problem. The syndicate's algorithm anticipates every move. Every potential leak sealed before it even forms. It's like playing chess against a shadow who knows your next 5 moves. Lyra's gaze flicked to Kara. Which is why we don't play their game. We rewrite the rules. Kara nodded slowly, the old strategist's fire flickering alive. Debt isn't just a number, it's a weapon. We'll turn their own liabilities into a chain that strangles. The team's hacker, a pale, intense figure named Rin, joined the circle, fingers flying over her virtual keyboard. I'm seeding ghost contracts into their ledger, fake loans, phantom assets. Their algorithm will chase ghosts, bleed resources trying to stabilize illusions. A low whistle from Jax. That's bold. Bold or reckless, Kara replied. But desperate times call for desperate markets. The freighter shuddered. Outside, Eventide's derelict towers faded into the darkness, trading echoes now replaced by silent anticipation. Kara stared at the glowing data streams. If the syndicate falls, it won't just be credit markets that crash. Entire supply chains, power grids lives. Collateral damage, Lyra said with a shrug. The market always demands a price. Kara's voice softened, almost a whisper. But whose price? Who pays when the rich bleed their own people dry? The silence that followed was thick with unspoken debts. Suddenly, Rin's voice cracked the tension. Incoming alert, oracles predicting our interference. It's recalculating. If we don't accelerate our moves, we're exposed. Jax's hand flew to his comm. Ready the disruptors. Time to turn the tide. Outside the freighter, in the cold expanse of space, Eventide stations' flickering holograms cast ghostly light on rusted panels. The syndicate's debt enforcement drones stirred, sleek, insect-like machines designed to seek out economic dissent and crush it with ruthless efficiency. Inside, Kara's voice cut through the hum of machinery, steady and resolute. We're not just fighting for profit. We're fighting for a future where debts don't own us. The crew's eyes met, shadows reflecting in their hardened gazes. The storm had begun. The planet Vialia hovered below like a living coin. Its surface, a shifting mosaic of neon markets, gleaming towers, and endless rivers of data that pulsed like a heartbeat beneath its sprawling cities. Here, the economy was no mere backdrop, but an entity unto itself, a sentient organism entwined with every soul and structure. From orbit, the view was mesmerizing. The tides of commerce weren't made of water, but of credits and contracts flowing in rhythm with the planet's gravitational pulse. Massive holographic displays floated in the thin atmosphere, showcasing fluctuating asset values, market sentiment, and debt indices that shifted with eerie synchronicity. On the ground, beneath the swirling patterns, the bustling data stream bazaar was alive with traders, hackers, and smugglers. A cacophony of voices and digital signals where information was the most precious currency. Kara's team descended in a battered skiff, landing among the thrumming energy of the bazaar. They moved through crowds of hooded figures exchanging encrypted data slips, their every word a negotiation weighted with risk and reward. Lyra's voice was low but sharp. This place, it's like the economy breathes. Every transaction alters its mood, its tides. It's not just numbers, it's emotions, alliances, betrayals. Jack scanned the crowd, eyes wary. And every step could be a trap. The syndicate's agents run deep here. Kara adjusted her hood, eyes fixed on a flickering market hologram above. The sentient economy pulsed like a living thing, unpredictable but hungry for balance. She spoke quietly, almost to herself. If we want to break them, we need to understand the tides, ride them. Their goal was clear. Locate the legendary Ledger of Echoes, a rumored archive containing every debt, every credit, every hidden contract ever made on Violia. It was said the ledger wasn't static, but lived within the economy itself, shifting its records with the planet's financial pulse. Lyra smirked, hunting a ghost ledger in a ghost economy. Typical. As they approached a shimmering stall where a robed figure traded memories for credit, Rin's fingers danced over a portable interface. I'm tapping into the stream, scanning for ledger signatures. Suddenly, a voice cut through the noise, smooth, mocking, dangerous. Looking for the ledger, are we? The crowd parted to reveal a tall figure draped in shifting cloaks woven from streaming code. The bazaar's cryptic broker, known only as Sci-Fi. Kara stepped forward. We're here to even the odds. The syndicate's chokehold ends today. Sci-Fi's smile was a slash of white teeth. Bold words, but the economy doesn't care for boldness. It rewards cunning. Lyra chuckled darkly. Then let's make it pay. Sci-Fi gestured with a gloved hand, and the bazaar's holograms flickered, reshaping into a complex web of debts, credits, and market flows, a living map of power and weakness. Follow the stream, Sci-Fi said. But beware, every credit has a price. Some debts are better left unpaid. Kara's gaze locked onto the glowing network. We're not afraid to collect. The sentient economy thrummed louder, its tides pulling them deeper into a labyrinth of finance, secrets, and survival. Back aboard the freighter, tension crackled like static as the team prepared their next move. Rin's fingers flew across the console, injecting their ghost contracts into the syndicate's ledger like silent saboteurs. Liquidity is a fragile beast, she said, eyes locked on the rapidly changing graphs. Once it stumbles, panic spreads faster than a supernova. Jax paced, the scarred veteran's eyes narrowing. We're gambling with entire supply chains here. One wrong move, and it's not just the syndicate who bleeds. Kara's voice was steady, but the weight was clear. We crash their market, we starve their war machine, but if we go too far, we become the monsters they fear. Lyra leaned in, grinning. Monsters win wars, angels die broke. The freighter's comms crackled suddenly. Incoming transmission from Syndicate Command. They're aware of the ghost contracts, countermeasures deploying. Rin's hands didn't falter. They're trying to isolate and quarantine the phantom debts, but it's like fighting shadows. Kara clenched her jaw. Then we become the storm they can't see coming. Outside, the vast asteroid belt glittered, a graveyard of failed ambitions and hidden wealth. The team's next target was a mining convoy transporting rare assets crucial to the syndicate's economic stability. If they could intercept and disrupt that flow, the ripple effect would cascade through the market, pushing the syndicate's over-leveraged empire closer to collapse. Lyra smirked. Let's shake their foundations. In a stock chamber deep within Syndicate HQ, the antagonist, a calculating mastermind named Vale, stared at the glowing holoscreens that pulsed with streams of predictive data. His fingers tapped rhythmically on the console, orchestrating an elaborate dance of financial control and technological dominance. Vale's voice was cold, precise. The Oracle algorithm predicts every move they could make, every loophole they might exploit. His advisor, a sleek AI construct flickering beside him, responded smoothly, adjusting parameters to minimize risk. Probability of rebellion success, less than 0.02%. Vale smiled thinly. Overconfidence is a currency they spend too freely. Yet beneath the calm exterior lurked a secret. Vale's assets were dangerously leveraged, the syndicate's economy teetering on the edge of collapse if even a single variable went awry. His gaze hardened. We must crush their insurrection before it gains momentum. Deploy the debt enforcers. Tighten the data stream chokehold. Back on Violia, the economy itself rippled in response, as if sensing the impending storm. Vale's voice softened, almost to himself. The algorithm doesn't lie, but people do. A chill wind swept across the jagged edges of the derelict orbital exchange, known as the Spire. Once a thriving hub for interstellar trade, now a shadowy skeleton orbiting a forgotten star. The vast station's glass-paneled corridors flickered with fading holograms, advertising credits and contracts from a long-lost golden age. Debt enforcement drones, sleek, predatory machines armed with compliance lasers and asset-seizing protocols, glided silently through the empty halls, their sensors sweeping for unpaid debts and unregistered transactions. Each drone bore the syndicate's insignia, a cold reminder of economic domination enforced by steel and code. Kara's team hunkered down behind a fractured console, its blinking lights casting ominous shadows on their faces. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Every second was a wager against discovery and destruction. Lyra's voice cut through the silence. They don't just want our credits, they want our lives. These enforcers don't negotiate. They execute. Jax checked his weapon's charge level and muttered, "Credits don't win wars, but guts do." Rin's fingers hovered above her interface, ready to hack the station's systems. "I'm planting a recursive loop in their target database. It'll tie up their enforcement algorithms long enough for us to slip through." Kara nodded sharply. "Do it. We can't afford mistakes." Outside the fractured viewport, the void stretched endlessly, stars distant and indifferent. The spire was a tomb of forgotten deals and whispered betrayals, and somewhere within its rusted bowels lay the key to crippling the syndicate's stranglehold. A data cache containing the true ledger of galactic debts. Minutes stretched thin. The drone's soft hum grew louder, their patrol patterns tightening like a noose. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the corridor ahead, shattering the silence. Smoke spiraled upward, illuminated by flickering sparks from damaged consoles. Lyra barked, "Time's up, move." Kara led the charge through the twisting corridors, dodging security turrets and deploying M-pulses to disable incoming drones. Each step was a gamble. One misstep could ignite a cascade of alerts. As they neared the data vault, Rin's interface flared, encrypted firewalls shifting rapidly. "They've locked the ledger behind a quantum cipher." "This won't be easy." Kara's jaw tightened. "We don't have easy." The tension mounted as Rin worked feverishly, sweat beading on her brow. The ledger was a fortress of financial secrets, every entry a weapon and every omission a lie. Lyra's eyes scanned the monitors. "This economy breathes deception. Every debt we expose pulls a thread that could unravel everything." Suddenly, the lights flickered. A deep, resonant voice echoed through the station's comm system. "Stop this folly. You threaten not just our economy, but the fragile balance of galactic order." Vale's voice, cold, authoritative, but edged with desperation. Kara's reply was fierce, unwavering. "The balance you uphold is built on exploitation. We are here to break the cycle." The station's alarms screamed to life, and the drones surged forward, relentless as the debts they enforced. The battle for the ledger had begun. Smoke lingered in the air, thick and acrid. The team pressed deeper into the vault, the faint hum of cooling systems barely masking the tension. The ledger terminal glowed softly, a monolith of data humming with potential. Rin's hands flew over the console. "I'm bypassing the quantum cipher, but it's more than encryption. The ledger is adaptive. It rewrites itself based on market fluctuations, hiding debts and shifting liabilities." Lyra exhaled sharply. "So it's alive in its own way." Kara glanced around the dim chamber, her eyes sharp. "We don't just want to expose debts, we want to weaponize them." Jax added grimly, "Debt is a blade, we need to make sure it cuts the right throats." Minutes later, the ledger's contents flickered into view, sprawling webs of credits, loans, and contracts, spanning star systems and factions. Hidden within were the syndicate's darkest secrets: shadow loans, market manipulations, and the true cost of their control. Lyra whispered, "Look at this. They've been bleeding the outer colonies dry, pushing them into insolvency to corner resource rights." Rin's voice was tight. "And here, a hidden clause that triggers default penalties on rebel assets." Kara's mind raced. If we can reverse those clauses, we could turn their own economy against them. Suddenly, an alert flashed: system integrity compromised. Incoming countermeasures. Vale's AI proxy had launched a counterattack, scrambling data streams and triggering market defense protocols. The ledger began to fragment, pieces dissolving into digital shadows. Rin gritted her teeth. "I'm holding it together, but only for seconds." Kara's voice was resolute. "Send the data. Flood the markets with these revelations. Let the economy decide their fate." Outside, the data stream bazaar reacted instantly. Holographic markets plunged. Debts became liabilities, and alliances shifted in real time. The sentient economy was in turmoil. Lyra smirked. "We just crashed their portfolio." Jax growled and woke a sleeping giant. The team regrouped in a hidden alcove beneath Vialia's glowing skyline. The aftermath of the ledger's release rippled across the planet like a financial earthquake. Kara's voice was low, heavy with urgency. "We've shaken the syndicate, but the fight isn't over." Lyra's grin faltered. "There's a leak." Someone tipped Vale off. Jax scowled. "No one gets this close without a traitor in the ranks." Rin's face was pale. "I thought I could trust the analyst, but Cypher's playing both sides." The broker's words echoed in Kara's mind. "Careful, storms sink small ships too." The team faced an impossible choice: expose the traitor and risk shattering fragile alliances, or keep the secret to maintain the rebellion's momentum. Kara's voice hardened. "In this economy, trust is the rarest currency. We pay in full or lose everything." Lyra's eyes flashed with determination. "Then, let's make sure the syndicate pays more." The shadow of betrayal cast long, but the fight for survival and profit was far from over. The atmosphere in the data stream bazaar was electric and volatile. A luminous labyrinth of swirling data, holographic tickers, and flashing arbitrage opportunities. Traders in cybernetic implants and neon tattoos darted through the stalls, their eyes fixed on floating screens that streamed real-time asset valuations and risk indices. At the heart of this chaos stood Kara and her ragtag team, their faces illuminated by the glow of a massive central display. The syndicate's elite forces, led by Vale, were marshalling their last reserves: credit manipulations, algorithmic assassins, and encrypted strike bots aimed at crushing the rebel economy before it could fully rise. Kara spoke, voice steady but edged with urgency. This isn't just a fight for credits. It's a war for who controls the narrative, the market, the people, the future. Lyra scanned the crowd. Vale's predictive algorithms are locked onto us. If we don't break the cycle, we'll be trapped in their loop. Jax gripped his plasma sidearm, eyes steely. Time to turn their leverage into our weapon. Rin's fingers flew over her wrist console. I'm injecting a recursive arbitrage loop, feeding false liquidity to their supply chains. It'll cause market cascades, but it'll buy us the window we need. From the shadows, Sci-Fi, the rogue analyst, appeared, his eyes gleaming with cryptic amusement. Markets don't like uncertainty. Chaos is the only true arbitrage. Suddenly, the holographic market prices shimmered and began to plummet. Panic rippled through the syndicate's ranks as key assets dissolved into digital dust. Vale's voice boomed over the comm, cold and biting. You think you can bankrupt an empire with tricks and lies. Your rebellion is a blip on my charts. Kara's reply was sharp. Your empire is built on debts we never agreed to pay. Data streams clashed like waves. Finance and firepower collided in a dance of desperation and cunning. The rebels' bold gambit triggered market crashes, credit freezes, and asset seizures on an unprecedented scale. Lyra shouted over the din, their supply chains choking. Zero liquidity. Now's our chance to cut the head off the serpent. Jax led the charge toward the syndicate's data core. Blasts of plasma and pulses of digital sabotage tore through defenses. Vale's AI struggled to stabilize the collapsing markets, but the cracks spread too fast. Kara felt the weight of the moment, every move a calculated risk on a galactic scale. Do we crash their markets and starve their people, or fight fair and lose? She murmured. The answer was clear. Survival demanded both grit and guile. As the data core flickered and died, a stunned silence fell, a fractured empire gasping for breath beneath the rubble of its own excess. In the aftermath, the data stream bazaar lay smoldering, flickering between collapse and fragile recovery. The sentient economy groaned under the strain of upheaval, shifting with the tides of new power. Kara stood on a balcony overlooking the chaotic sprawl, the neon lights painting her face with sharp contrast. Lyra approached quietly. We won the battle, but the war for hearts and credits is just beginning. Jax leaned on the railing, exhausted but defiant. We gambled everything and came up with a flush. Rin, still scanning data feeds, added, their algorithms are broken. The market is raw, unpredictable, ours to shape. Sci-Fi appeared from the shadows, voice low. Profit and power are two sides of the same coin. Which side do you want to be? Kara's eyes met his, the weight of choices pressing down. Neither. We want a new balance. A flicker of hope stirred in the fractured economy, a fragile promise amid the ruins. But beneath the surface, old debts lingered, new debts would be born, and the game was far from over. The final line lingered in the air. In the volatile dance of finance and fate, sometimes the only winners are those who rewrite the rules.